Lorne Donaldson is out in Chicago after a 1-5 start to the season. But is this his fault? And where do the Stars go from here? Let's talk about it. This is a CHGO Stars emergency podcast presented by Sunnyside. Visit sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases when you enter promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, bright buys every day, only for 21 and over or Illinois medical card holders. Thanks for joining us here on fairly short notice today on YouTube on CHGO for this emergency podcast. As yes, Lorne Donaldson has been fired as the head coach of Chicago Stars FC. I'm Alex Campbell, joined by Joe Chatz of On Tap Sportsnet. Joe, thanks for being on the show today on short notice as we wade our way through the breaking news.
Yeah, happy to do it. Thanks for having me. A cuckoo day here in Chicago. It's been crazy 24 hours. Happy to talk about it as things are still unfolding, it seems like.
Yeah, quite the timing here, as of course we recorded our monthly CHGO Stars episode yesterday, and then of course the team had to drop this news this morning. Quickly gonna read the statement we got this morning from the Stars. Chicago Stars FC today announced that the club is parting ways with head coach Lorne Donaldson. First assistant coach Masaki Hemi will serve as interim head coach while the team searches for a replacement. Quote, "We are grateful to Lorne Donaldson for the culture, respect, and sense of self-belief he helped build within our squad. We appreciate his work and wish him the best for the future." That is from general manager Richard Fuse. So, Joe, I mean, let's talk initial reactions here. On the surface, a team starting 1-5 to the season, firing its head coach is not a ridiculous looking thing, but I don't know about you. I was not expecting to see Donaldson get the hook this soon.
It was something boiling over from last year. This team has shown, progress. It made the playoffs, but it didn't show progress really in NWSL. They didn't really beat anybody good last year. They didn't do much in the offseason coaching and front office wise. Let's not act like this isn't. But this is a top-down issue from Chicago. I've heard ownership isn't inclined to be spending right now. They've had a lot of money go out and haven't seen that much come in recently. And this team is just in a state of chaos right now. I heard for a few weeks now that Donaldson was losing the locker room. That contributed to most of this in terms of just how it happened in terms of the team. Obviously, the roster construction has been lacking, and that kind of comes down to what was the budget, what was allowed, why is it only Maitane and rookies? Right? So many of these things just never made sense in the first place. And of course, it's the head coach who's going to be the fall guy always. That's just how it is in professional sports. But this was set up to fail from the beginning. You don't hire a coach before you hire a sporting director or GM. You do it the other way in soccer. It just, none of it ever made sense from ownership. And this was destined to fail at some point. Just, the Mallory Swanson of it all is obviously still, we don't really know. I hope she had a nice birthday. It seems like she's getting more in the public eye, which is awesome. Good for her. Hope she's well. But the way this team is constructed, the way they've played, there's nothing that's instilled any sort of confidence in watching them over this year. And they couldn't even eke out draws, right? There's just been a lack of character with this team. So just everything about it, it was time, but it's also on the front office now to be like, we're going to change, but also ownership needs to say, we're going to devote resources to this too, because it is what it is. Wrigley was fun, but commercially, this team still has a lot to accomplish because a lot of people still don't really realize they're in this market.
Yeah, I mean, a lot there. I mean, it's funny. This team's inability to grind out draws. Yeah, they made the playoffs last year. They won 10 games. They lost 14. They drew 2. This was such a make or break team last year. It was literally like, hey, is Mal Swanson going to do something cool that wins us this game, or is she not? Shout out to BN CEO in the chat. Lorne prefers less oxygen in his air. Hello, Denver. Yeah, we will get to the Denver of it all here in a minute. And yeah, 1 win, 5 losses to start this season. Yeah, the Mal Swanson of it all, again, that's totally beyond Donaldson's control, and losing one of the best players in the world off your roster, a roster that, to your point, was not reinforced in the way it needed to be. There are still only 5 recognized defenders on this roster, and one of them is currently out long-term injured in the form of Natalia Kuika. Even if you had Swanson, there's no real attacking depth behind a theoretical front line of her, Ludmila, and Jamise Joseph. Michaela Johnson, the teenager's been a pleasant surprise, but you certainly couldn't have planned on that. And then you mentioned the order that Fuse and Donaldson were hired in. That in itself is weird, but 2 people who clearly do not have the same vision of how they want to build a soccer team. Donaldson comes in from the Jamaican women's national team, and you know what you're hiring there. You're hiring a guy who is known for being a great woman, or in this case, woman manager, a person who's an inspirational figure, a guy who's going to get his players to play really hard and have a collective belief. And the soccer's probably not going to be pretty, but you know what? If it gets results, who cares really? And on the other hand, Fuse doesn't seem to be on that same page at all in terms of stylistic, desires, as much as we can tell, because he hasn't made that many moves. But when you look at players like Ludmila or like Julia Grosso, I think Grosso might be the poster child for the disconnect here, because she's a ball-dominant central midfielder, central attacking midfielder who wants to, get as many touches as she can and dictate a game. And all her time in Chicago has been spent playing either in a defensive midfield pivot or this season out wide on the right.
Yep.
So I think that kind of really sums it up. And I think we can note here, there are a couple things that you can put, I think, on Lorne, and the Grosso is an example of it. And we've quibbled with his defensive lineups this season, but ultimately, I mean, the ceiling of this team as it's constructed with this roster and no Mal Swanson is, at its absolute best, is maybe fighting for a playoff spot. And that's
maybe keyword.
Right. So, like, again, the interim coach is Masaka Hemi. He's a Donaldson guy. He's a Real Colorado guy. So, like, I don't expect a whole lot of change. Do you?
No. And let me see if I can pull up this quote. If you can filibuster for 30 seconds, I found an interesting quote from when he took over at New Mexico United. So here's my thing about Mac Hemi taking over. Like you said, Alex, he comes through Lorne's system as a coach at Real Colorado. That's the first place he gets a coaching job once he stops playing professional soccer. Then eventually ends up in Japan, coaches in the women's league for a year there before the Tokyo Olympics, and then ends up at New Mexico United, USL team, a very good USL team that, like, nothing to sniff at, but it's not women's soccer. It's completely different. Let's stop acting like you can just jump between each other. They're not the same. And then if we're talking about jumping between that and youth soccer, it is not the same. So I have nothing against Mac. I think he's a very nice guy. I don't know what his coaching identity is going to be, but I don't understand that it would be any different than Lorne's, because he's come up through Lorne's everything. So it would be shocking to see a very different team. I was just very confused by that. I'd heard that he was angling for the interim job for weeks now, and this is what you get.
Great sign.
No, from your number 2. And so this is what's been going on behind the scenes. And it's just, this is where we're at right now. And it's a team with little to look forward to, and you got to think there's going to be a lot of squad rotation. Like, why the Nadia Gomes of it all, Catherine Barry? These are players who are out of contract in 2 months. Like, it just, the rotations never made sense, and I'm not inclined to believe they're going to be that much different against a guy who's spent most of his career, or at least the advancements in his career, under Donaldson.
And as BN CEO points out in the chat, it's the Pizza Derby this weekend, Chicago, New York, and Gotham currently, a team that is overperforming expectations. Esther Gonzalez, 7
Yeah.
goals, is 3 clear at the top of the Golden Boot race already this season. So,
Does she have more than the Stars? Yeah, she has more than the Stars.
yeah, that is correct. The Stars have
Yeah.
3. So there are
Yeah.
several players in the league with
Yeah.
more goals scored than the Stars as a team. Yeah, I wonder, a penny for the thoughts right now of Julianne Stitch, who since being an assistant for the Stars has just absolutely rode a rocket ship up the college coaching ranks, has gone from U Chicago to Colorado College to U Denver in consecutive seasons, just continuing to get promotions. So yeah, would like to know her thoughts on a day like today as somebody who has seen their career just go on a directly upward trajectory since leaving. And
Since
then
leaving.
you add, okay, you've got those players who are going on a contract. Alyssa Nair signed on for one final year here because the clear writing on the wall here is she's going to Boston next year. She's going to play 1, maybe 2 years there and retire because that's her hometown club. Like that's pretty obviously what's happening here. You've got Denver with a team, which, puts a strong eye on Mal Swanson if she returns to playing. She's from there. And obviously, yes, Dansby is still here, but on the NWSL team in Denver, I am going full court press to get all of the Denver Lorne disciples really onto that team. That's Swanson, that's Sophia Wilson, that's Lindsay Heaps. Yeah.
Will they partner with Labreal Colorado is also a thing with youth clubs. That's a big thing that I'm looking towards. I mean, it seemed like the writing on the wall that Lorne was always going to go to Colorado also because you had that. So that was part of it too.
Yeah. So, I mean, the some next steps here seem really obvious, but, you've mentioned ownership a couple of times. On the one hand, you talk about money going out and money coming in. Ludmila, not a cheap signing. By all accounts, is one of the top couple paid players in the league.
Yep.
Not Swanson, quite. As far as we know, Mal Swanson is the highest paid player in the NWSL, which again does not help your budgeting when the highest paid player in the NWSL is not on the field. But Ludmila, not cheap. Grosso cannot have been cheap.
No.
And then you look at the, where does a team make money? Not a lot of fans showing up at SeatGeek, but why would you to watch this team right now? Yeah, it's a tough situation. We talked about how the change in ownership would be a good thing for the team's marketing, but again, Swanson, who is your kind of golden goose of the marketing operation, especially given the Cubs ownership tie-in, she isn't playing, so that's not an option right now either. But at the same time, all this time and effort was spent over the offseason on a completely unnecessary rebrand. And as well as all this talk about the idea of their own stadium in the city, which is a great theoretical idea, but I think you and I agree they'd be better focusing on a training facility first, like the Fire did. And then, hey, if there's in theory going to be a soccer specific stadium getting built anyway, maybe that's not the best use of your efforts. So again, do I understand some of ownership's concerns on the financial side of things? Yes, absolutely. But on the flip side, they really did not allocate their time and money wisely in this off season, and it's part of the reason we're here right now.
And players didn't want to necessarily come to Chicago this offseason. They saw the system. They saw how boring soccer it was. They saw the lack of fluidity. They saw the ways that Julia Grosso wasn't being used. You saw that top-end talent being told to just kind of run alongside Mal and figure it out. Why would you come sign here when you see that? And you already saw the cracks coming out in the offseason, right? The Alyssa Nair of it all, who knows what her future holds. I think it would be shocking if they didn't run this decision by her genuinely beforehand. If they didn't, that's another disconnect just in terms of someone who could immediately slot into a front office as soon as she retires.
Heck,
right?
Player coach at this point.
But here's another note. This decision was made yesterday, and the team didn't tell the players until this morning. This was made yesterday afternoon. So they held on to this a long time. And nothing got leaked, but this came out yesterday. This was decided yesterday afternoon, and just everything about it. You look at the way things are reviewed, even the thank you exclamation points on social media posts. Like it just, I don't understand the way that this happened today and the way that they went about it. There's issues everywhere, and today is an example. We didn't get an attendance from the last game. right? They didn't record attendance. This is what we're dealing with. So,
yeah, I mean, the communications of it all has not been good. I mean, we were seeing national reporters today finding out things second and third hand from the likes of yourself and Leslie Ryder over at Gal Pal Sports, who were reposting and sharing things onto Twitter and Blue Sky. And that's how, national soccer writers were finding out about this news. And so, there's the communications of it all, which is all tied up in this as well. And that's a challenge. I mentioned on the show yesterday, there was an NWSL produced graphic about Lou Barnes extending her all-time lead in the minutes played in NWSL. And the graphic was like, oh, out of curiosity, here are the next 5 people on that list. And 2 of the people on that list were Danny Colaprico and Vanessa DiBernardo, of course, who both played most of those minutes in Chicago. And, again, if you think about, obviously the pandemic changed lots of things, but if you think about, I can't believe it was 6 years ago now, that 2019 team that played for a title, and you look at
insane
the construction of that team and how talented that team was. Even heck, look at the 2021 roster before the Max Exodus, and you can look at that team and say, there's a lot of things here. And there was this, after the Rory Dames scandal and the team being sold, there was this opportunity to hit the reset button and say, hey, this organization is different and we're going to be somewhere where players want to come and play. And for totally different reasons, that hasn't happened. And to your point, we are still at a place where one of the biggest cities in the country and a team with a history, even if not recent, of some success and a great youth development base around it, that, there are Chicago players around the league, including multiple rookies who didn't want to sign here this year.
Yeah. Zoe Matthews was on trial with the Stars last summer, didn't sign.
I mean, yeah, and so, I think, and again, Hannah Bebar, the crown jewel of the local soccer scene around here, and the Eclipse program that Dames formerly ran, went to Harvard, was a star there. She's playing at Bay FC this season. And that used to be the sort of player that was a lock for the Stars to get, and who they built around. So, I mean, before we get out of here, Joe, looking forward, I mean, maybe the team on the field gets a little bit better, but I don't see any reason to believe we're going to see outlays of signings in the summer, and we're going to see a lot of money thrown at this. We're going to hear from Richard Hughes tomorrow, but I don't know what he can say.
I don't either. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be tense. I'm curious about the budget and what they thought. I just don't understand what would have been a successful, 7-game, 6-game run when you look at this team. I don't think it's fair to expect Lorne to have done that much better, but also he didn't do himself any favors with just the way this team was being run day to day. But this team has talent. They should be competing. Hell, as we said, just get some draws, get some points, get some results, right? That's the thing they didn't do. They haven't been able to do. They have the character. They have the defenders to scrape by if they need to, as long as you're not having redundant players like Jamise Joseph and Ludmila doing the same thing at the same time when they can complement each other well, but not if you dispatch them in the same way. Let them do different things, adjust their minutes a little bit. Maybe have Ali Schlegel. Sometimes it's that 30-minute off the bench option. She's amazing in that role. Get Chardonnay Curran. I don't know why she's never played. It's always been weird to me that she's been signed on a permanent deal and all these, short-term people get, jump her in line. There's just so many options now, I think. I would maybe slot it. Cameron Bogalski's played pretty well. So, I mean, I don't know necessarily where you put Hannah Anderson right now, but she needs to be playing. There's just a lot of things that can change in the way NWSL is. They could get trounced this weekend. There could be a new manager bounce and they get a road win. But this team shouldn't be given up on yet. There's still a lot of time. Who knows? Maybe Mal shows up and that changes everything. But if they actually commit to spending and commit to a coach in the summer, which I don't know if they're going to do, I could see them running an interim through the rest of the year. They say they're going to work on a hiring quick, but we'll see. That is the big question, because they need to actually bring in people, and a lot of people, and talented people. If you just go with Mal and Ludmila, if Mal can play, who knows? Yeah,
we just got to wait and see at this point. And yeah, I mean, 3 the next 4, Gotham, Kansas City, Washington Spirit. Not going to get any easier, but we will wait and see how things play out. Joe Chats on Tap Sports, thanks for taking the time to check in today, and we will see how this proceeds.
Can't wait. Smiling through it all, just like Mal. Thanks,
Smiling
y'all.
through it all. Yes. Give us a like, give us a follow, subscribe on the CHGO YouTube page, and go listen to the episode we did yesterday here on CHGO Stars. It's slightly out of date, but I still think it's good stuff.
It's relevant.
Yeah, and it's relevant. We talked some more national stuff as well. So all that good stuff. Thanks, everybody, here in the middle of a Wednesday for spending 20 minutes or so with us. I'm Alex Campbell. We'll see you next time on CHGO Stars.
We all silly like the mayor.